Morning, everyone. Welcome to Talking Horses. Sarah Albadwi and Andy Serling as we kick off another week here at Aqueduct. And after all the horrible weather, it seems to have cleared out and got some nice racing coming up. We got some great racing coming up this weekend. A lot of turf stakes as we race on the turf through next weekend. And races are good this weekend. Looking forward to that, and just looking forward to getting back in action. Good to see you.
Good to see you. You just needed to take a week off, and now we have nice weather again.
Well, it was nice last week.
I know, because you weren't here.
It was fine, but it's been fine now for a few weeks. All that bad weather's gone in the rearview mirror, and get some nice good stuff in. A couple of turf races today. We have the Pick Six carry over the weekend. The Breeders' Cup races. I don't have a lot to say about the Breeders' Cup, and we don't have a lot to time because we have a little shorter show these days. So the Breeders' Cup was a lot of short-priced horses winning that were the likeliest winners, and I guess there weren't that many horses expected to win that didn't win.
Yep, pretty much. It was a very logical turnout for a lot of those heavy favorites, and not a lot of results that were extremely puzzling.
No, I agree. I think the most surprising thing was in the Breeders' Cup turf, the overall mediocre performance of some very good Euros that came over. I know August Rodin won, but he got a perfect trip to win. The rest of those Euros were basically a no-show in that race, but probably the only race because the Euros pretty much, not surprisingly, the logical ones dominated throughout the day. Anyway, head over to NYRA Bets. Post Breeders' Cup, so we are back to match 200. Use the promo code match200 when you head over to nyrabets.com, and we will match the $200 of your initial deposit play through NYRA Bets. We have, that middle pick four. If you don't know it by now, you'll probably never know it. 2, 3, and 6. We've also got a $2,500 hit and split. The late pick four at Aqueduct today. Play it through NYRA Bets. Opt in, hit it, and you will share in that $2,500. Today's late pick four, races 6 through 9. We are on 12 to 4:30. On FS2 today, covering all the action today. Race number 1. I know your first selection was scratched here, and I believe you scratched in the same horse that I took, the 1 Dolce Veloce. I don't have much to say here. I didn't like the ones that ran, so I picked the 1 and 2 as my main 2 picks in this race, but I don't have a great deal of confidence in them either.
No, I mean, this is a horse that for David to make this one 9 to 5, you have to take a look at, but then you take a look at the rest of the field and you can kind of understand why.
By default.
I mean, Maximus Mischief, he's doing well with his 2-year-old first-time starters, firing at 23%. Bill Mott does well in these types of restricted races with 2-year-old first-time starters and dirt sprints, but there just isn't much going on outside of this horse, so it's kind of a default selection.
I agree. I mean, you have a first-time starter that's a homebred for Mike Rapoli with Mangia, but it's with Dave Donk, and going to leave the better ones with Todd Pletcher. Doesn't mean this one can't run. Dave had a big priced winner over the last week. Gary Siaka, the first on the outside. It's taking a little money early, but there's no money in the pools. Walk With Me seemed like could be a little bit interesting, $100,000 for this one, a central banker. But there's just not much to say because the ones that ran, they're just not much horse. I mean, Caller Bluff was third. I guess she's kind of the horse to beat of the ones that ran because she's the only one that ran.
Right, and I mean, her best figure is in a dirt meant race on a fast track.
Turf meant race. Off the turf race. You said dirt meant.
No, it was a dirt.
Oh, you're right,
yeah,
you're right. I apologize. I was
looking
at the last race. I apologize. Sorry.
Yeah, but her last race, I mean, she ran fine, but not so great that a well-meant first-time starter couldn't easily defeat her.
Yeah, but on the other hand, a 59 buyer might be good enough to get it done in this race, so I won't be surprised if that horse should win, but I agree, not too compelling. Race number 2. Race number 2, we'll take a look at your top selection. She's awesome, finishing second with Harlan's Bond, running third, and let you talk about her.
I mean, this horse just makes a lot of sense as one that was able to sit just off the pace, right in behind horses, and actually made up a little bit of a move here at your eventual winner. And this is a horse that she's actually faced before in the past, Cool, Calm, and Collected, who was making that drop in class and who just has had the better of her in the past. The margin of separation back to the horse that ends up finishing third, who's also in here, Harlan's Bond, I didn't see enough of a case for that to be made up, so much so that I would take that one instead of a horse that I think will be a little bit more forwardly placed.
The problem with this horse is not that she's not good enough to win. The problem with her is twofold. First of all, her last race is an outlying fig. For the most part, she doesn't run particularly fast races, and that concerns me a little bit.
Yeah, it's a big jump.
More than that, what concerns me about her is that she has 11 starts, 1 win in 6 seconds. And she's not exactly a horse that's a big price in her races. She's a relatively short price all the time, and she simply doesn't win. So for me, I'm not going to put a horse like this on top. She's going to be one of the choices, and I took the other choice, Mim. I think this is a very big trainer change to Rick Dutrow, and congrats to Rick for winning the Breeders' Cup Classic. I, for one, am somebody who believes that Rick cut a raw deal in life, and I'm thrilled to see him back, and I hope this helps him get more horses and get things rolling again, because the man is a fabulous trainer, and the job he did with White Abarrio is remarkable. Look at his form, how much he improved since he went into Rick's care. And as far as this horse claimed by Mike Dubb, an owner who wins a lot off the claim, and I think it's a real trainer change. I don't love this horse. She's no bargain here, but the horse she has to beat is She's Awesome, who most of the time runs figures lower than the low 60s that Mim runs. And frankly, I think that it's very likely that Mim will improve off the claim to Rick, so I've taken her on top. I think she's very logical. You are dramatically against her for some reason?
Would you want her if she wasn't changing barns?
What's the difference? Well, would I want her if she had? If she was an
winners
octopus, I wouldn't want her either.
dirt.
She is changing barns. That's the entire point
Right,
here,
okay.
though. I mean, I don't think she's. I'll put it this way: I wouldn't have her fourth if she wasn't changing barns.
Okay.
So yeah, and I think it does. That's not really a question that's worth asking, because she is in fact changing barns. My mic falls off. Not for the last time today. That's the sole reason you have her fourth?
No, it's just I don't know if she's that good. To be honest, she's a horse that had a couple of chances running against tougher company, but then when she dropped in class, she was favored. She didn't get the job done. She gets her first win on turf, and now she's facing winners for the first time, and she was winning for the $40,000 tag as a maiden on the grass, and now she's in for $40,000 on the dirt. So I get the trainer change, and I think that you would expect her to be somewhat forward and improve going to the Dutrow barn, but I don't think that she's that good in general.
Well, you have her below horses like Le Gratte, who's coming off a maiden 30 win, and for the most part is very slow, and even Harlan's Bond. So I feel you went overboard here, but we'll see what happens. I think she's very much the horse to beat, swishing into the new barn. Race number 3 was a race that was just completely shredded by scratches, with horses like Bargaining Power and Citizen Mac, who are going to take a lot of play in here. You end up basically with a 6-horse field where only Opportunity Set and Motivo make any real sense on paper. You can enlighten us on Union Tap in a minute. As far as Opportunity Set, I'll show the first race by Opportunity Set. This is a horse. This is almost a year to the day, right? It's November 11th of last year. This horse comes out, makes the first start, and runs a 73 buyer and looks like a really good horse. This was a horse that went to the Chad Brown barn, was shipped in at the exact same time as early voting, and was outworking early voting at that point in their 2-year-old career. Early voting, I think, debuted right in the beginning of December, like the 4th or 11th. And this horse was outworking him. He had some issues. He didn't come back. But, I mean, he's the horse to beat in here on the drop down, but there is a real question with him whether or not he can run at all anymore.
Oh, he's so untrustworthy, but
Terrible.
with the scratches of Bargaining Power and Citizen Mac, it's like, where else do you go in here?
Motivo.
Because, well, those were the two horses that made some sense, and Motivo, he has some upside, but at the same time, it's very limited.
He only has upside because he's dramatically slow. I agree. He's been terrible in his races. On the other hand, I thought in this race he was the other horse. I mean, the truth of this race is, unless you have some great idea against the one,
Where else is there to be?
well, you're going to get no price.
Right.
Opportunity Set was 9-5 with him in there. Now he's going to be 3-5 in this race because 2 that came out. As far as Union Tap, I know he got a good figures and also ran 2 back. I guess he's a little random coming off the layoff.
Yeah, just another horse that I thought I could make a small case for. I had him 4th eventually, but of course with those 2 scratches, things have dramatically changed in here. Look, I think that in his race last time, he had a stumbling start. He was facing better horses for that level. If you go back to his dirt debut, it's a number that would make him somewhat competitive with some of Opportunity's Set worse races, but there just isn't much to go on outside of the favorite, and you have to make a decision whether you trust him or not.
I would use him in Motivo. I don't think Motivo's impossible, but I am getting a little sick of him. I think I've picked him 2 straight times, so I didn't take him again here. Race number 4 is another race where there was a giant scratch because April Antics, I don't know however you cut it, was a major player in this race, and she comes out, and I don't really know where to go in here. I'm just assuming that Run Devil is a horse that probably deserves, in this spot, after being in somewhat unrealistic spots, was right down on the rail last time at Delaware. I don't have any evidence the rail was dead at Delaware, but it does feel like an awful lot of the best running was done on the outside, or at least a little bit off the rail. And Arroyo had this horse, like the rabbit of the dogs, glued to the rail last time. So I think that may have contributed to her performance. She still ran the sort of the fig that she runs, and it was a race, and we'll take a look at Mariah's Fortune and Suspended Campaign from her last race and a couple races back. I just don't want any of these horses. And to me, it was April Antics or Run Devil, and I didn't want anybody else. The problem is you'd rather have 2 and now we have only one.
Right, exactly. We have a horse that's done some of her better running when on the lead or right off the pace, and I think that Mariah's Fortune and even Vegas Weekend are other horses that could be a little bit closer in this spot, so I don't necessarily see her getting this easy time of it on the front end, but I do agree she's been facing some better company. This is her first time in a somewhat realistic spot for the Rudy Rodriguez barn, and I think that even her start going 1.25 miles in that off the turf race at Saratoga where she was post 12, she was able to have enough speed to cross over
That
and
race
clear
collapsed.
that field.
Well, they start top of the stretch, so the race 2 back, they start Run Devil, they start top of the
She
stretch.
was still
so it's not.
out post 12.
It was
so,
but it was a fast pace. It was post. Wait a second. We're talking about the wrong one.
well, she was number 12.
Okay, she was the 8 post. I think the point about her race, Run Devil's 2 back, is that she was involved in a pace that collapsed. I mean,
Right.
that race, and I think oddly enough, that was a day where speed did very well all day, and that was the one race that was dichotomous. And I think it was just going 48-2 for this level horse at 1.25 miles, when the final time was 2:06.4,
Right.
they're really moving. I agree. She's been in tough spots. She makes a lot of sense. She's outside the other speed, supposed to get the right trip. On the other hand, I mean, I'm going to disagree with David. I think she's going to be a substantial favorite in this race.
You do? Okay.
Yes, I think she's going to be 8-5 to 2-1.
Really?
In here, yeah, because everybody's going to see that she's been running figures, but I think they'll see she ran against better horses for Rudy. Maybe I'm wrong. I'll be surprised if she's not favored, and I'll be surprised if she's over 5, if she's 5-2 or over.
Okay.
I thought she'd be very short in here, especially with April. April Atlantic must have been the favorite, right?
She was 3-1.
Yeah, no, David sees it as very close. He's usually right. I don't.
Okay.
I think this horse will emerge as the favorite. Is Irad riding anybody?
No.
Boy, the stewards out west were waiting for Irad.
They were.
They were waiting. They were going to say, well, if you misbehave, we're going to show you. Because
Yeah, okay.
that was quite a 3-day suspension he got for that.
Right.
I mean, he'd be getting life if they were going after him like that around here. I was a little surprised. It does feel like the California stewards were making a statement there. Maybe they're right, maybe they're wrong, but that seemed a little bit over the top to me. I was a little surprised by that.
Yeah.
Anyway, race number 5 kicks off the late pick 5. Hey, there weren't a ton of scratches in this race. Tom Morley's Needed will be the first or second choice, 8-5. David hasn't heard, so he feels she'll be a strong favorite. Here's her last race, and I get Tom trying her on the dirt. You know, taking a horse at a short price, even on the drop down, because of a third in a slow turf race, is not really where I want to go.
No, and I mean, look, she was forward enough, and you think that now she's getting that class relief, she could make some sense in here, but this is not the type of horse that I could pick on top, especially at a short price, because you don't want something where they haven't done this before, and it's not exactly this overwhelming dirt pedigree where she's been completely running on the wrong surface. There's enough turf on the dam side to suggest that they wanted her to be there.
This is a Brethren. You don't see a lot of Brethrens.
No, we don't.
And the dam, her sire was Stroll. You don't see a lot of Brethren Stroll. Maybe that's a great nick. How many could there possibly be?
No.
How many Strolls are there? Stroll was a Claiborne Bill Mott horse, I believe. I kind of like Stroll. Stroll was a neat horse, but
Yeah.
but that is a funny pedigree.
It is,
right?
but it's not a dirt pedigree. It's not.
No,
It's not like
it's
it's
not.
saying, "Oh, we
No.
just had a couple of races in her to see what we're made of, and now we're going to switch surfaces." It seems like, okay, she's not turning out the way we wanted her to. Let's drop her and move on.
I completely agree with you. I mean, she may win, but Tom's right. She's running 55. Look, she can improve as an older horse. I got to tell you, though, I guess they don't really feel like, I mean, they could send the horse to the farm, and frankly, if she didn't get claimed, she probably will. I don't think as a broodmare prospect. $6 million, by the way, for
Goodnight Olive
Goodnight
and
Olive.
Nest
Wow.
coming back next year.
Well, I'll take the other side of that wager, but okay.
So they say.
He would like to bring her back next year.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm going to be surprised. She's a
Well, if you had to
she's a
pick, wouldn't you rather have her than Nest?
Well, Nest isn't going to run either. I mean, Todd Pletcher's a lot of things, but I don't think he can wave a magic wand. I mean, she was really good as a 3-year-old and decidedly worse, and he couldn't even really keep her on the racetrack after a few races after she got started later. The chances she comes back. Now, to be fair, Mike Rapoli buying her back for $6 million. He's buying out the previous partners. And I think
Yes.
the way it works, it's hard to, it may be easier to send them to auction. I'm not sure exactly why that is, but you'll see that in some partnerships, horses going to auction. I guess it's to get a fair price or if it works. So she has value as a broodmare. I'd rather pay $6 million for Nest as a broodmare than Goodnight Olive as a broodmare.
That's a fair point, yeah.
So I think that there's less downside. We'll see what happens. Listen, I love Goodnight Olive. I hope she comes back. I just have trouble seeing it as a 6-year-old. We'll see. So anyway, necessary and proper.
This is a horse that really took no money first time out, but I thought showed some good speed towards the inside in her debut. And the horses that beat her was a pretty well-met Brad Cox first-time starter, as well as Soul Imperatrice. The 4th place finisher out of that race, Poseidon's Miss, returned with a little bit of improvement, though not better than what we had seen from her previously in the past, running second to Sun and Wind. So I just thought that this one, now getting more of an outside post with the speed that she had shown on debut, seemed like another type that made some sense in this spot.
Yeah, I disagree with you that she was a well-met Brad Cox first-time starter. She was 9-5 in a hideous field. She was a bigger price than the Joe D'Angelo firster who finished second. So I think if she was a well-met horse, she wouldn't have been in for 30, and she wouldn't have been a bigger price than Joe D'Angelo's horse. I think she took money because she was trained by Brad Cox.
I think it was that I had looked at some stat for him in these type of restricted races, and that it was like astronomically positive that he had pointed horses for that, and then they had run well.
That's fine, but the reality was the horse wasn't even favored for Brad Cox over Jose D'Angelo. Now, I think Jose D'Angelo is a terrific trainer, but you take 2 first-time starters, and Joe Public is going to go for Brad Cox 4 out of 5 times at least over the other one. So I just think those horses were bet because there's nobody else in the race. Now, having said that, this is another race where there's nobody else in the race, and there's no question in my mind, and I agree with you, if you're going to try to beat the 8, I would rather bet the 9. Frankly, if the 8 and 9 were the same price, I would rather bet Necessary and Proper.
Right.
Because at least a dirt horse, and I respect Rick Dutrow so much. How good the horse is remains to be seen. So I went to a weirdo who probably has a little more dirt pedigree in Classic Diva, who was, I don't know if these owners are new or not, simply because sometimes they run in names out of town and they're in different, stables can be weird. So I'm not sure whether it's new or not, because I see that David Duggan has at least one other horse he got from Curtis Payne that ran down in Florida over the weekend. I think tomorrow, as a matter of fact. I'm a big fan of Dave Duggan. I looked at this race, and I mean, if you shake it out and you say, I want a stranger, isn't this kind of the only one? A horse that probably has more dirt pedigree, dropping down after being in a maiden special at Colonial, maybe getting the right surface and going to a good trainer. So I'm going to take this horse as just a new-faced wise guy because, I don't want to bet Necessary and Proper. I'm not saying I disagree with you, but I really want to bet her at 2-1 or 5-2 off a big 35 buyer.
There's not much going on in here.
No, there isn't. So I'm gonna play wise guy and look for the one wise guy case that I can make. See what happens in race 5. We'll be back as we have a couple turf races in that late pick 4, which includes a $2,500 hit and split with Naira Bets. While we're on break, go to Naira Bets and opt in.
For almost 150 years, the Saratoga name has been synonymous with the finest quality, sustainably sourced spring water available anywhere. Saratoga carries on the rich tradition of its forefathers by crafting each stunning blue glass bottle with the same attention to detail and care that has been its hallmark for generations. Visit SaratogaSpringwater.com today or ask for us by name at your local market or restaurant. Saratoga Spring Water. Make every day exquisite.
Welcome back to Talking Horses, presented by our good friends at Saratoga Springwater, Sarah Albadwi and Andy Serling, as we move to the turf for race number 6. And A's getting in are a big part of this. And I think the first question that people have to ask is a horse that David has made the favorite morning line in the number 3, Ocala Rocket. It's a difficult situation when you're a morning line maker, and the favorite or one of the favorites is on the AEs.
Of course,
because you have to use it. You just don't know how it affects your line. So keep that in mind. Is these odds probably don't hold up exactly. But as far as Ocala Rocket, I know the horse ran well. I don't think this race has been overly productive, but I don't think it's been a bad race.
Right. I mean, we saw Agate Road come out of here, and he ended up winning the Pilgrim and didn't run that badly going on to the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf. But we also saw Tom Collins come out of here and finish second and regress quite a bit. So, I mean, the winner of that race did also come out of a race for Chad Brown. So it's hard to judge completely, but at the same time, this was a horse that was setting a pretty slow pace and is now cutting back in distance and putting the blinkers on.
Yeah, but more importantly, he's cutting back. You know, I just think that this is a move for Bill Mott that doesn't work. And every time I look up the stat, I think about my friend Gabby Gadet, who used to insist to me how great Bill was with turnbacks. I'll have to text her and text her this stat, actually. With turnbacks. I'm
sure she can't wait.
We had a big fight about it, and of course the horse she liked that was turning back for him won and paid $27. But overall, he has terrible numbers with his turnbacks. Yeah, she found the unicorn. It was not this one. It was actually a good horse. It's that Long on Value.
Oh,
actually.
okay.
It was a number of years ago. Anyway, he has terrible numbers with those things, and I agree with you. Listen, I'm not going to say this horse might not be as talented as anybody in the race, but I'm going to be surprised when that talent transfers, especially at a short price at 6 furlongs. As far as Reverend Moon, and I love the fact that a lot of people don't remember who Reverend Moon was, Sun Young Moon, and the church. What was it? Unification Church? Unification Church? No.
Was it Universalist? Unitarian Universalist? I'm thinking something else.
I think it's Unification, but I'll look it up. I apologize if I'm wrong. No, you said there's mass weddings at Madison Square Garden. That's Mitch Levitas was involved in that, our director. And he had a paper where when they had the strike in New York back in the late 70s, 1980s, they had a newspaper, and there was a New York newspaper strike, and it was the only paper being printed. And Marty Blum, who's a very early winner of Harvey Pack's handicapping contest at Aqueduct, where the cowboy hat and all those things, he was their handicapper. So Marty had his moments of fame being their handicapper and stuff and doing this. I like Marty. I just got a medal with Marty, actually. He was a good guy. He was a character. He passed away. But which is it? You look it up?
We'll get back to it.
Oh, okay. We don't have to get back to it. Anyway, I don't know. I guess this horse is kind of the horse to beat. Did run against better horses last time out, to be fair.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's one that he ran really well in his second start behind that horse that was shipping in from Colonial. That was a huge price, Seagal. And he just makes a lot of sense in here as a horse that has that experience now. But even in his last race, does it bother you a little bit that he did slightly regress?
No, but I don't think he regressed. I think he just met better horses.
You think so?
Yeah. I don't think he ran great. I don't think he's a superstar. And like you, I have no problem taking somebody else. And I took Big Invasion's half-brother. I know they entered him quite a while ago, and he was scratched out of there. I think he's been rained off at least once. Who hasn't been rained off at least once? Big Invasion ran very well in the Breeders' Cup. I saw people criticize Joel for the ride. That was a great ride. He's given some less than terrific rides this year.
This is the problem.
But
when you have those situations where we're so used to criticizing one particular person, it's just that then everything is that blanket statement. That was a great ride.
No, that's what dopes do. That's not what people are actually watching races do. He gave the horse exactly the only kind of ride you could give him that gave him a chance to win. He just took a tough beat.
Yeah.
And now apparently people are acknowledging that the horse that won's name is No Balls.
I'm so glad.
Apparently, I'm very proud of that. I feel like a trendsetter.
NBC was there to at least say everything correctly as far as his name. And I saw someone post the other day that they just recently got why the horse was named that. And I was like, oh.
People were mad at me when I called him No Balls last summer.
That's his name.
You've picked Burp. I know it is. He's a gelding.
It's the whole point.
Really. The Jockey Club approved it.
Yep.
Therefore, it's okay.
Precisely.
Though they do approve some odd names. But anyway, Bourbon Outlaw.
I mean, this is a horse that is one that did run on the dirt, just seemed like more of that turf meant type based on pedigree. The dam, she went 1 for 7 with 2 seconds, 2/3 overall. But the Grand Name starts to shine, was a 6-time winner for Eddie Keneally, graded stakes placed on the turf. So while he finished last on debut in that off the turf race on October 15th, he did get bumped around a bit at the break. And now I do think that he is just getting over to the right surface.
I agree. Second Dam was actually very good in the turf, ran Byers in the mid-90s and was a quality performer. So I'm with you. I think that horse was dangerous as well. And there wasn't a ton of turf pedigree going through here. Summer and Adrian's a half to a turf winner, the Dam won in the grass. So there's a little bit of turf in her.
Typhoon Fury seems like the other horse that neither of us picked that would make some sense.
Yeah, only because it's George Weaver. I don't know. I bet her last time, and she lost to that, heavy favorite turf horse.
Right.
But I don't know. I'm totally in the turf. It feels like George sent this horse to the turf because the horse ran so badly first time in the dirt. We'll see what happens in race number 6. Race number 7 at 7 furlongs. We will take a look at American Law. You have on top, and it's bridesmaids day for Sarah. She's going to get home for horses that like to run second today.
I picked someone else on top, but here we are.
Didn't you pick the 5 on top?
No, I picked the number 3 on top, who's not here. St. Hood for Brian.
Well, now you have the 5 on top.
I do, exactly.
Okay, so once again,
I know,
Sarah has
well-
on top a 1 for 18 with 8 seconds and 5/3.
Yep.
And this guy really hates to win, but
He really
he's kind of the
does.
worst to beat.
Look, he had some excuses in his starts, 2 back and even 3 back, but this was a race where he kind of, he ran into a horse forced ranking, who I know didn't run that well the other day, but who is,
That's kind. He was awful.
I'm
the other
kind,
day.
okay? He did not run
was
well.
terrible the other day.
But at this time, I mean, forced ranking was a horse
I
that had
agree.
come back for Chad Brown, was running very well as he progressively stepped up in class, and he ran a good race, finishing second to him. He's not a winning type. That bothers me. Now he's going to be a short price, but I couldn't make a huge case for somebody else to put them on top instead now with my top pick coming out.
Yeah, I'm never going to put a horse like this on top in these situations. I like Vodka Mardini, actually. We'll take a look at the last race, and I know that he's beating maiden 40s, but, you know, this is not your typical maiden 40. This is a horse for Linda that had run fast figures, was coming off a long layoff, and yes, no question, he was beating up on a bunch of relative slugs, horses that are not as good as these horses. But having said that, who am I so afraid of in here?
Nobody.
Do I want Magical Ways, who's in a new barn, who, yeah, didn't run that badly last time. American Law doesn't win. Clubhouse didn't run that badly, actually,
he actually
last
ran
time,
pretty
to be
well.
fair. But still, he's an ex-Todd Pletcher horse whose form overall isn't that good. Equal Justice for All is impossible to make. Masterwork off the layoff is a little bit on the slow side. Memphis, he's okay, but he's another horse. I wonder why Linda claimed him in the first place. And David Jacobson, who the heck knows with him?
Right, and we do see one of his come out, but with Memphis,
Well, that horse is entered tomorrow.
there we go. So with Memphis, he had race dynamics in his favor last time, while Clubhouse didn't, so that's kind of why I prefer Clubhouse
agree with
over
you.
him. But again, when you look around, there's not much going on.
Right, that's the whole thing, and that's why I prefer the number 2 Vodka Martini, because I just can't get myself to bet Clubhouse. I never thought he was that good for Todd, and he felt like he was sort of dropping in a Todd Pletcher discard. Those don't win that often. As far as Memphis, right, he sucked up into a pace that was falling apart.
Exactly.
So there just aren't that many options, and when I'm left with the number 5 American Law as the other horse, I'll take a horse who I think is going to be in front. I worry the pace could be a little bit contested here, but I don't think Jose has any choice. He has to go from the rail. And I loved her damn Hot City Girl.
It was unification, by the way. You were right.
Well, I'm older than you. You this is long before your time.
At least I know who that is.
I'm impressed, actually.
Yeah.
Well, Mitch told you, right? From
No.
his time in the church.
Mitch doesn't tell
Mitch
me
knows
anything.
Marty Blum.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I bet Ernie does too, I bet.
Oh.
Ernie's a little before Ernie's time, but Ernie probably
Yeah.
remembers. Yeah, Ernie's an old timer like me.
Ernie's the best.
Marty was a great character. I used to take the I used to meet him at Belmont. We'd go to Belmont on the weekends. I worked in the city in the summers of '79, '80 when I was in high school, and before Saratoga, obviously. I went back to Saratoga to meet, and so I'd go to Belmont, and then Marty taught me about how you could get there's a little shuttle bus we would get near where the train left, and it would be about 10 people would go out to the Meadowlands for the harness night. Meadowlands harness was great, especially back then. Anyway, race number 8 on the turf here.
Our best friend.
Yeah, there we go. Well, we'll take a look at Golden Rocket, Master of the Tunes, and Waterville last time. I don't know. There's no pace in here. Master of the Tunes, I know she kind of ran off last time. I hope she kind of runs off again and wires the field, and I don't know. It's just that Golden Rocket is so unreliable. Not that Master of the Tunes is. I didn't want anybody else in here,
Well,
Sarah.
Master of the Tunes is reliable to run her race. It's just a matter of whether or not
Doesn't win
she's
that
reliable
much.
to win.
Golden Rocket's not reliable.
No, she ran huge
runs
last
good.
time, but the time before that, where was she?
It's because I made a big Exacta box of collaboration and Master of the
course.
Tunes, so that's
Yeah,
why
she
she
knew.
ran. The time before that, I bet her. She was awful.
Yeah,
I mean,
she hates
couldn't.
you.
She was terrible. I mean, so I
She
don't really
knows.
know what to do with her in general. But her good races make her very tough, and she
Right.
can be forward. And like you, I want the 2 horses to be forward, unlike a horse like Waterville, who might have been the worst favorite of all time last time.
Yeah, that
out.
was terrible. The fact that collaboration ended off in the win pool, the price that she was,
Shocking.
was a gift.
This was
A
IRAD.
gift.
That was IRAD money. And
Right.
it was also silly because A, she's not that good. You're asking a horse who
She's
had
a
never
closer.
finished first in a race to now win 2 races in a row when she finally finished first in a race. And now she's in a paceless race. She wins, I lose.
Yeah, I don't have any interest in her.
I mean, the other horses are Snowy Evening. And I'll say one thing on Snowy Evening. She's stepping up in company. I don't know. She puts herself in the race and she seems to run well every time, doesn't she?
Yeah, she ran well last time. She got a pretty good trip, but she ran well.
She got a great trip last time, but she
When
still
they
ran
decided to rate
the
over
job.
acting.
Yeah, that was probably not IRAD's. They won't be showing IRAD's ride. You know, believe it or not, I presented the Eclipse Award for the top jockey when I was down
What
at
year?
Gulfstream. 2016 was the race.
Oh.
2015 was the race year. 2016 was the year.
Mm-hmm.
They paired me with somebody who tried to read the winner before we'd announced the nominees.
Sounds good.
It was a fortunate
Speed it
moment
up.
where I was the adult in the situation. Having said that, I had a good idea. I see, if given time, I would like to do a montage of the nominated jockeys' worst rides of the year.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think it's only fair to teach them a little humility up there while they're getting lauded. And I would definitely put Irad's decision to rate. Now she didn't break that well, but to rate the favorite in that race was probably overacting.
Yep.
I mean,
There's just no speed. Master Tunes can go. She should go. That's it.
and Autumn Glory, we'll take a look at her stretching out for Christophe off the win. I know she got it done last time, but this race really fell apart.
It did. I don't really know if she's that good or not. I think that she just is one that's more lightly raced than some of the others in here. She got the benefit of a great trip and great ride in this race. And again, I don't even know that she necessarily wants to go longer will be better, but at least she's handled it before, going back, albeit all the way back to December of 2021.
Yeah, and I'm just not sure how good she is, you
Yeah.
know? Yeah, I
That's
kind of
fair.
prefer others. I think she'll take money because she's coming off a win. You and I went in the same direction in race number 8. So race number 9, I had 2 ideas against the heavy favorite and
They're both
ridiculously obvious Taven, and I picked them first and third, but I would have switched if just one of them had scratched. I'm very, very disappointed that we won't get to see the horse named for the great, legendary Nick Santagata, who's a valet here, of course, but racing fans know Nick.
Well,
There was
one
no more true journeyman rider. I mean, Nick won. I want to feel Nick won over 4,000 races, all close to 4,000 races. And let me tell you, the hard way. Not only ride here, he'd ride at the Meadowlands at night, he rode everywhere. And to know Nick, for me, is to love Nick. And Nick, of course, works here. A lot of people know him. So I had to pick a horse named for him. How could Rick Dutrow have a horse named for Nick Santagato that couldn't run at all? Nick Santagato. So I picked that one, and that one, Yes She Can, was the other horse for Kevin Rice, and so I'm left with Taven, who's going to pay about $320.
Yeah, if that, right?
Right.
I mean, just
I don't know. Where else is she supposed to go?
right, exactly. There's not much else going on in this race. You have a lot of horses coming out of the same race, and I don't really think any of them ran particularly well. Not afraid to charge, was
kind.
at least up close and showed some sort of speed before fading pretty badly, with the others sort of making up some ground and passing tired horses. And then you end up with Spites Dance, who's trying the dirt for the first time, who didn't really run that well on turf first time out. So there's not much else happening behind your favorite.
I thought the workout for Spites Dance was reasonable, and maybe they just picked the wrong surface for the horse, but they really got it wrong, not only in turf, but going long. But I'd rather take her as the other horse, a stranger. I mean, I guess with Taven, the question is, do you feel it's a hasty drop? I don't. This horse is running buyers in the 50s, is a homebred. Unless they feel she has some great values to them as a brood mare, somebody wants to claim her for 30 and move ahead with her. I think they're trying to get the money while the getting's good.
Right, and I don't think that it's that aggressive of a drop either. And Brittany Russell, she has really good numbers doing something like this with her 2-year-olds dropping from maiden special weight to maiden claiming. I mean, she's 38% with a small sample size.
What's
so,
the ROI, though?
258.
Oh, really?
Yeah, 9 for 24 past 5 years. 83% of them finishing in the money. So
Yeah, listen, she wins. Her horses run reasonably well. They run better out of town than they run here. They run extremely well out of town. I tried to beat this horse, but with the scratches, I can't do it. She'll be a short price, and many people will be leaning heavily on her. In that $2,500 hit and split, we'll get to that as you head over to Naira Bets. No better time in the present. Use the promo code MATCH200, and we will match for $200 of your initial deposit. The pick 4. If you don't know by now, there's a middle pick 4 every day. 2, 3, and 6. I don't know what to tell you.
missing out.
Yeah, I'm wearing out from showing that slate. $2,500 hit and split, late pick 4 today. Opt in over that. I'll be doing that as soon as we get off the air here. You hit, you opt in, you will share in $2,500 with anyone else that should hit. Don't know
Which
what's
you
going to
may
pay
need
if the
with
favorite
the
wins the
results.
last. I was going to try to beat her, but I'll use the 7 a little bit. 12 to 4:30, covering all the action here. It's nice to be back. I was going to say it's our winter home. It's really our home now for a while.
Right. I missed you last week.
Did you? Thank you. It's very nice.
I had to be
appreciate
you
that.
and do Talking Horses every day.
Believe me, you don't want to be me. Nobody would want to be me.
I
All right,
survived.
We're done. Chris Griffin is just getting started. He'll be up next in about 10 minutes, I think, with a reprise, the Scratch and Changes. Have a great day at the Big A.
For almost 150 years, the Saratoga name has been synonymous with the finest quality, sustainably sourced spring water available anywhere. Saratoga carries on the rich tradition of its forefathers by crafting each stunning blue glass bottle with the same attention to detail and care that has been its hallmark for generations. Visit SaratogaSpringwater.com today or ask for us by name at your local market or restaurant. Saratoga Spring Water. Make every day exquisite.